Hello and welcome to this guest session interview here at IHM. I'm Mick Brennan, Director at IHM, and we have with us today Tyrelle from Soccer Assist. Tyrelle, thank you for joining me.
All good.
We've been obviously working together for a number of years now. You've been to our programs a few times to talk to the players and talking with quite a few of our players currently about their opportunities to go into the US. First, tell us a little bit about what you do at Soccer Assist.
So, Soccer Assist, we find place talented athletes from around the world into American universities on scholarships. We predominantly focus on students from the UK, but we do have, and we have helped students from pretty much all continents get over to the US. We pride ourselves really on the support of the students throughout the entire 4-year experience, as opposed to simply just placing them in America and that's it, job's done. And so far, we've got a 100% placement success rate, which means that every student that we've worked with have been able to successfully find them a place, and they're heading over to the US. So that's been quite encouraging for us so far.
Superb. So every student that you've worked with so far has found their level somewhere in the US to be able to go and play and study. Fantastic. Yeah. What I found really interesting when you've been a few times to talk to our players and you've done your presentation, and hopefully when we get back up to what might be our new normal, we'll have that again where you can come in and talk to lads, is your own story. So you actually present to the lads and go through with your own story. You've been on this route yourself, haven't you? And
yeah. So I initially went over to the US back in 2011, I think it was now. It was like an age ago. And I started off at junior college in Seattle, done really well with them. We made a bit of history. We made it to the national finals and stuff like that. I later then moved to West Virginia Tech University, which is the polar opposite, going from a city to something that's quite rural. It was a big change. Won the national championship 2 years in a row with them. And then later thereafter, I was then offered a pro forms to join a pro club in Sweden. So I spent some time in Scandinavia. And for me, the route and the experience that I got from playing over in America, I would have never been able to make that leap to playing professional football afterwards if I didn't take the route, because essentially being able to train full-time, facilities, coaching, the level of opposition, the level of players in your team, it certainly helps me to improve my level and get to where I needed to get to, as opposed to, a lot of my friends that necessarily may have stayed in the UK and, played semi-pro, and I was only training twice a week. I was getting, 5-6 training days each week, plus doing my additional bits. So definitely owe a lot of the success in football down to going over to the US.
So, I mean, you're obviously well placed to advise and help and support and mentor these young players and young athletes going there. That's fantastic and great story. So, I mean, you mentioned there about that opportunity that you got to play and everything and progress on to playing professional. So what are the real benefits when you're talking to the parents and the students? We obviously have players that come on our program and we try and give them as many opportunities to progress on in the game and with their education, and whether that be playing or coaching or being part of sport. What obviously this is one of the great opportunities that we try and work with to give them that chance to go on to the US. What are them benefits of that US route to the players?
Yeah, so I think it boils down to three main things, right? I guess the soccer, which a lot of players go over there for that reason. There's a chance to play for, at a high level for an additional 4 years, with the chance of earning a pro contract at the end of it if you do well. Secondly, from an academic point of view, from those students, they're going to get internationally recognized qualification and a degree. A lot of the students tend to thereafter either head back to Europe or to their country of origin and pursue opportunities there, or they may even look to complete a master's or a postgrad in the US. And then thirdly, it's a once in a lifetime experience. It separates any, for example, UK graduate from a regular student that may go to, I don't know, Cardiff University. If you went to a uni in Florida, from an employer's point of view, straight away it shows that you're independent. You're able to get out of your comfort zone. You're able to network, meet people. You know, all of these underlying benefits really come with the route. And for me, that's what makes it such an appealing thing, because it's not really just narrowed down for one particular type of student. You know, you don't need to be that person that wants to go over there because you want to play professional football at the end of it. You may just be using the route as a means for you to have an amazing life experience, get a good education, play football for fun, and then at the end of it, you know, go and work on Wall Street or wherever you want to do afterwards. So yeah, those are the benefits really what the players can get from it.
Brilliant. So it's an all-round benefit really there for the players. It's a springboard onto playing at a higher level and possibly playing professional, but whilst getting that education. Fantastic. Now we obviously on our programme here in the UK, on our academy, we have majority of international players that come from overseas. Many are non-EU and non-UK players. And we do talk quite often with our players that come in, especially those that don't have an EU or UK passport, that to progress on here in football professionally or at a higher level is very difficult if you don't have that because of work permits and visas and so on and so forth. With those type of players and students coming on, are there any boundaries, or can all nationalities, all international players get access to going on these programs?
Yeah, I think again that's one of the benefits of the route, is that it's quite open. You know, in terms of which students can apply, there's not really many restrictions. As long as you're good enough, you pretty much are going to be able to get in. And I guess to kind of paint a picture of the amount of opportunity that you have over in the US, there's over 2,000 universities that actively recruit and have college soccer programs. So there's definitely a lot of opportunity, because each program can recruit anything from 1 to 10, 11 players. So when you do the maths on that, you know, there's huge opportunity. So for us, as I said, we've worked with students from across the globe and helping them get over to the US. So there's not really a situation that we've come across which we don't have experience in so far.
Oh, excellent. So now, obviously, they go into the US and they're going to get a good education. They're going to be doing the degree, and you know, with everything that we do, and I know that you do, it's important having that underpinning academic route as well. The majority of our students and our players want to know about the football. They're there to play. They come to us to play football and develop the football, and then they want to progress on further. And I know we touched on there, but the level of football. But what is that level of football like? What would you compare it to, that level of football? I know that they play or a lot of them play in front of big crowds and stadiums in the US US route. So, what would you compare that level to?
Yeah, I think the misconception is they call it soccer, we call it football. They don't know what we're talking about. But it's far from the truth, you know, because the standard has certainly creeped up over the last 5 to 10 years. You know, at the highest level, the NCAA Division One, the level of talent. You know, you're talking about players that have been released by top European academies, players that have come from playing for the national team at the youth level. You know, the standard is really high. If I was comparing it to the UK, I'd probably say NCAA Division One, which is the highest level, is probably on par and could compete against Category 2 academies in the UK, because the standard is good. And I guess an example of that was a couple of years ago, Stanford brought over their team for a tour. They played against QPR under 18s, wiped the floor of them like 4-1. Played against Fulham, beat them 5-2. So it just kind of shows you the standard that you're dealing with, because as I said, a lot of these players have come from top academies. They've come from, you know, they're youth internationals, you know, so it's certainly not going to be an easier route into the game.
Well, so a fantastic level of football there, and I think I know when I've seen your presentation, you talk about the lifestyle and you talk about everything there, you know, and them stadiums with the supporters in, you know, it looked fantastic. Now, we've had a number of players that you've worked with over the past few years, and quite a few now that you're working with currently towards going to the US. And obviously our link and partnership is based on that longevity of our students working. I mean, we've got students that are coming into the program this September that have that aim to go on to the US next September, and we're going to work together to make sure they get all of the right skills and the background and everything that they need ready for going on. But I know we were talking just before this interview about some of the students that have gone over. We're talking specifically about Saranga. You've had a few of our players that have had success and got offers.
Yeah, so like Saranga, obviously working with him was quite good. It was quite interesting because he's very specific, and him and his family are very specific in terms of the institution that they were looking for and what he wanted to do and what he wanted to study. And we were able to achieve that straight away. And we placed him into the #1 junior college in the US, at Monroe College in New York, where he wanted to be because he's got family there. And they had a very successful season, winning a national championship. A lot of their players have moved on to bigger universities, and I'm pretty sure out of that squad that he was in, there's going to be a lot of pros that come out of it, because it is a well-renowned program. And now we're working with a number of the other students. We've got the twins, Uneza, who are now set to go over in January. They're having their visas sent across to them over the next week or two, so they're pretty much done and dusted. And obviously for next year, we've got a few other students, such as like Vincent, etc., that we were talking about, who are now looking to start that journey, and we'll be looking at getting over to America for next year. I think the good thing is that you guys are able to prepare them properly. Obviously, we're in frequent contact, just to make sure if there's anything that we needed, or if there's any questions that we had regarding maybe the academics, or if it's anything to do with helping building their video footage. You guys have obviously been on hand to support them in that process, and it makes it a lot easier for everyone, because essentially when it comes to college recruitment, one of the main tools is that video footage. And if they're playing week in, week out with you guys, and then they're doing showcase games with us, it's only going to make it, it's only going to benefit them when it comes to universities assessing their footage.
Brilliant. Well, hopefully we'll have a number of students as well that will progress on in that route this coming year. Again, we were talking before, it's been a funny old season, with the season coming to an end with the recent pandemic and everything. How's that affected things in the US and players going over to the US for the next sort of 6 to 12 months or so?
Yeah, so it's a bit disjointed. Obviously, with the US, with everything not being as centralized, and it's all state by state, you kind of see the effects of that during a time like this. So, for example, the NJCAA Junior College Division have decided that they're moving their whole seasons to start from January instead of starting from August, which I think is the best decision for anyone to make right now, because if one school can play, but then, for example, another school in a different state that they're playing against has a student that have contracted COVID, then automatically there's an issue. So it's probably best for a lot of the programs to wait it out and then obviously start in Jan. Other schools, they've got things in place and procedures in place, which will allow them to safely take an international student from this August. So we've got quite a mixed group. We're not going to have as many students going over this August as we had anticipated. However, those that don't go over in this August will either go in January or in August 2021, depending on what their university has been saying. But we've been trying to keep our ears close to the ground of what's happening on a day-by-day basis regarding the visas and stuff like that. And so far, as the days have kind of gone by, things have been working more and more in our favor. So, if we had the same conversation next month, it could be a completely different thing. But right now, it's looking as if the players will be going over in either August, January, or next year August.
Oh, that's superb. Well, that's great, and hopefully, as we kick off the new season, we'll continue to work together. We can have you come in to talk to our players and do the presentation again, and monitor the players as you do on a regular basis when you see the footage. So thank you very much for that, and we look forward to continue to work in moving forward.
Perfect. Appreciate it, Mick, and I'll stay in contact and look after yourself, and we'll speak soon.
Brilliant.